Some viewers may find this content disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
The Squatch Father. Yes, it is great to see a regional director and fellow North American Dogman project member here in the Fox Den tonight. This must mean it is once again midnight lycanthropy time. Much better. I enjoy feasting and feeding primal urges to unlock my true potential. Without further ado, it is time for Hal and I to take a walk into the darkness.
My creatures of the night.
Yes, welcome back to another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on StarFox Radio. Our co-host tonight, the Squatch Father, yes, is also a very infamous member of the North American Dogman Project. Al, how you doing tonight, my friend?
Hey, Kenny. Good to be here, my man. I'm glad we finally connected, and thank you for having me, brother.
I do appreciate it. As stated to the audience, I do understand you are quite a busy guy, but I do get a chance to speak to you quite frequently. So it is good to finally sit here and hear some amazing stuff that you're going to bring to the table tonight. I'd like to hand you the mic, my friend, and I will go from there.
Okay, well, I just want to thank you for everything you do for the NADP as well. You know, I know you put a lot of time and effort and energy into it, and you know, it's better off that you're there. Thank you very much.
Wow. Fuck. I don't even really know how to respond to that. Super kind, my friend, and I already do appreciate you, but that's fairly epic, and thank you very much for acknowledging that, my friend.
No problem. So tonight I wanted to break down this video that Carlito Castro put out. I believe it's an older video. I think I seen it like 2 or 3 years ago and kind of called it back then. But Carlito put it back out and it's making its rounds again. I don't know where he got it from. Don't ask me. And I told Carlito when I seen it, I called and then I private messaged him and I told him that, you know, I broke it down for him privately. Like, I'm going to break it down for you tonight. And these are the reasons, though I believe that it's a hoax and why I called bull, you know.
I couldn't agree more. At first, I mean, I see it. I was like, all right, well, this is a little interesting, but no more than interesting because actually, when I was talking with Barb, one of my hosts, a few nights ago, we were talking about that, which is so funny because now I have you here, which is great to boom, put a nail in the coffin with this. And I stated, you know, if that was maybe 100 years ago or something, that would be, hey, the smoking gun with a barrel and everything, that would be great. But realistically, with costumes and technology now, that's not hard to replicate whatsoever. And it just seemed to reek of something going interestingly wrong, because if that was true, as you stated, then this case is we'd be speaking about would be closed, correct?
Yeah, like I said, as a matter of fact, I got to be brutally honest with you. I think it's a really bad costume. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to say that. Because I have a history in photography, I know about lighting and all. I'm not saying I'm a videographer. I was a still photographer, but I did graduate from the Center of Media Arts in Manhattan, and I do have a thing with lighting, and I know how lighting affects the product. And when I seen this video, the first thing I noticed, it looked like there was a full moon outside and above the creature, and to the right of the creature, it looked like there was a house that had a light on in the window. It was fairly bright. Those were the two hot spots in the window that the cameraman was shooting in. Okay, now this cameraman, and this is how I want to break it down. Number one, the film quality was horrible. Okay, just flat out horrible.
Potato filming.
Number two, this cameraman was in a controlled environment. He was in his house, right? He could have turned the light on in the house to get a better quality image of the creature looking through the window. B, he could have turned the light on outside to get a better image of the creature looking in. C, he could have turned both lights on and he would have had amazing video of it. He wouldn't have had to film in IR. He could have filmed in regular video. You know what I mean? If he would have just turned the lights on. And D, he did none of the above. So right there, that's telling me, these are all the red flags that I see when I watch this. Right there, it's telling me he wants this crappy quality. You know what I mean? Because the crappier the quality, the harder it is to debunk. Okay? So, this is the way I broke it down for Carlito, and the way I want to break it down. Number 3, the Dogman shoulders were way too small. Way too small. Looked like they belonged to a 50-pound kid. They were narrow. They were small. They did not have any muscle tone to them. So I'm throwing that out the window. Number 4, the creature's eyes. The creature's eyes. These creatures see IR, like we see a red laser. Okay, bright in our eyes. If these lights, you can see the IR lights reflecting in the creature's eyes. If this thing had that IR in its eyes, it would have blinked once or twice at some point in the video. It never blinks. Okay. Number 5, the head was way too small. These creatures' heads are oversized. They're always reported to be massive and non-proportional to the body. I've seen these things up close and personal. I've had them come to my house. The heads are humongous, unless you're talking about one that may be hyena-ish, where they have a smaller head. But this particular one, because of the wolf-like ears that pointed straight up, would have had a bigger head to it. Number 6, the creature's head stood straight up on its shoulders, like if you or me were putting on a mask. Okay? These creatures' heads don't sit that way when they're standing straight up horizontally, vertically. They lean forward because they have a dog-like neck. If you have a dog-like neck or a horse-like neck, when you're standing straight up, your head is leaning forward. And last but not least, number 7, when it turned and walked away, it walked away like a guy in a costume. And these were the reasons that I called on this video, man. And, this is the way I broke it down. And if you have any rebuttals to anything I said, I'd love to hear about it.
First off, as I'm watching this and you said all that, Al, you're the man. I must just say that was absolutely legendary. And I didn't even really pick up on some of that at first because I haven't seen that video too much. As I stated, I don't really ever take stock into that. But as I'm listening to you talk and I'm watching this, that was just broken down, as I said, legendary style, my friend. And I got to give you massive kudos on that. And I agree with every sort of statement on that because, A, I didn't know you were a fellow artist, so this is great too, my friend. Lighting and videography and photography, I've taken some images myself. We're all in the same pool, my friend. Like you said, lighting is still understandable whether you're creating a video or taking still shots. So the fact that you stated that, yes, of course, they wanted it to be crappy quality because then you don't need a costume or something that is outrageously good because there's no quality to the image. And banging on the side of the door like that, yes, it all makes sense. So that was excellent, man.
Yeah, I mean the grunt as he got closer and the banging on the door to me was just overkill. It was just way too much, and I'm just it was. I didn't even put those two things down on my list because it was just ridiculous. You know what I mean? But like I said, all the other stuff that I broke down. I mean, to me, like when I see a video and I put my 2 cents in, and I don't always put my 2 cents in everything because I don't want to come across as a know-it-all. But I'll just say I'm calling bullshit because it's got too many red flags for me not to. And then I leave it at that, and I don't explain what I'm talking about because you know why? Sometimes I don't want everybody to know what I'm talking about because I want to use that for myself to vet people. You know what I mean? And so if you don't know about it, you're a researcher, you claim to be a researcher, and you don't know about it, then that's okay because maybe we're not at the same level of research. But it took me many years of researching to, and I was always a shutterbug as a kid, and I took 4 years of photography in high school. That's why I went to it in college, and I'm just a geek when it comes to cameras and stuff, and when you're doing professional photography, especially still photography, whether it's modeling or still photography, like laptops, tabletops, images for catalogs, lighting is so important. You know what I mean? And I look for lighting. I look for the IR hot spots. I'll always look for hot spots when things are being filmed out a window, into a mirror or whatever. If there's some kind of glass involved, there's going to be a hot spot. Even IR puts out a hot spot. And you can see the IR in the creature's eyes. You know what I mean? And I broke that video down, man. I took some stills, screenshots of it, and I opened it up and I broke it down. And I said, okay, at first I wasn't sure if that was a moon or a street light above it, And then I said, it looks the way it's sitting in the window of the corner of that window. To me, it looks like a moon. And then I was debating on that other hot spot to the right of it. And I was like, is that a light on behind him that's reflecting in the glass? And then I blew it up and I was like, no, that looks like it's a window across the street and somebody's got a light on in that window, So, I was really, just dissecting this thing because I'm so tired of people putting all this out there and claiming this and claiming that. And like I said, when I seen the way the head stood on the shoulders and it was just so vertical, there was no lean to it. And if you ever seen these things up close and personal and you're looking at a Dogman that's anything other than a hyena type, then you know that their heads are oversized. They're massive for their bodies, and usually the upper body is massive too. It doesn't really thin out till it gets to the waist and the legs. That's where they usually thin out more than anything. And I'm looking at this, and this looks like two kids joking around, putting something out on YouTube or Facebook or whatever they're putting it on, just trying to get likes and stuff. You know what I mean? Because the guy filming wasn't even narrating. He wasn't saying, "Oh my God, I got something looking in my window. What the hell is this?" He was dead quiet and he was just walking towards it. And it was like, I think you would have a different reaction if a real Dogman was looking in your window and you pulled up your camera. Filming would be the last thing on your mind, believe me, if you seen one looking in the window.
Beautifully stated, my friend. And again, kudos. And I just love how you articulated all that. And again, keep on. RIP in this because it needs to be stated. It's because it is important, and it's not. So many people have problems with healthy skepticism and subjectiveness and objectiveness. And I think in general, people take that as being attacked. Okay. And it's not being attacked. Okay. There are ways to attack people skeptically. I'm not saying that, but there are very healthy ways of just asking questions, or as you were stating, just debunking something or putting an end to it, because there is no need for that to float around. Because if we are going to approach this with any sort of scientific level, like we're trying to, or any sort of credibility, it also takes away credibility from people that have really had encounters too, because now it just adds more murkiness to the water. And that costume, actually, as I'm looking at it more, you know what that even reminds me of? You know that I always knew this one was fake as heck, where the Wolfman, or whatever you would like to call it, is crawling up the stairs in the basement, the black one, and it's like on the stairs, and it's supposedly this person took a shot from it, like with their door open. It literally looks something like cheese, kind of like that costume. And to be honest with you, you know way more about all of this than I do, but especially like the Sasquatch part, which I'm going to mention here. If, like I was saying, this was back at the point in time where the Patty film was taken or something, okay, well, they actually had people that worked on Planet of the Apes and specialized in making beautiful type costumes for this point in time. They couldn't come anything close to that video, okay? So that really stands up because you have people that were given all the accessibility to Hollywood's assets and money and time, and they just physically, sure, if they had the assets, they could have created that, but they themselves just said that type of technology wasn't around at that point in time. I mean, the original Planet of the Apes, for its time frame, sure, it looked cool and stuff, but that doesn't look anything like Patty, okay? So when you look at that Patty film and you look at the Freeman film, and then the other one that I really think has a ton of merit too is down, I believe it's the skunk ape one, where they were saying that a person wouldn't have been able to walk through the alligator and python infested water at that speed where they're in. Supposedly it's a Sasquatch, but they were saying if they were in a monkey suit, it wouldn't be quantumly possible. Do you know the ones I'm referring to
You're
about?
talking about the skunk ape, the one where he's beating on a tree, trying to get something out of the tree in the canal down in
Actually,
Florida.
I haven't seen that one. This one was because I was a big Monster Quest nerd growing up. It was one
Yeah,
of the
me
Monster
too.
Quest ones. Yeah, it's an older video, but someone just sees what looks pretty much like the Freeman type footage in regards of how it moves, but it's just going across. I think it might have been a part of the Everglades, but they had people from Monster Quest looking at it as well, saying, A, this person would have been insane if they tried to do that, but they couldn't have moved that fluidly through this area with all the tall marshland and stuff. And yeah, I didn't know if you felt like all those were pretty credible because
Yeah,
unfortunately the
every
dog
single
man.
every if you're talking about the skunk ape one that I'm talking about, where the creature is in like 4 feet of water or whatever, and it's
Yes.
well, and that one, the Freeman one, and the Patty one, I always thought were all legit. Absolutely.
100% great, because that's the references I want to use here. Unfortunately, there's nothing like that when it comes to the Dogman game, at least in my eyes, because every time someone's tried to present something along the lines of this excellent video footage, no, all fake. Freeman's was back in like the early 90s, man. This dude was carrying a pretty big old school type like camera out there where you couldn't really mess around with any sort of splicing. But now in the time frame that we're in, you can do so much. I myself know I'm a videographer, okay? If I could get you to wear a pretty cool looking Dogman suit, okay, and I got some nice a night where there's a little bit of fog, or we made some fog and you were out in the bushes kind of crawling around, dude, I could get something where if I was a troll and I wanted to share it around, it would look better than 90% of this crap. Moral of the story is it's easily created now, and people, we can't really use video evidence like that anymore, I feel, as credible, especially in the Dogman field. Or we can't use you know how they have the blur squatches? Well, there's a ton of
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
the blur Dogmen. So I feel like we need to use the things like the baboon skull that Jody found, the weird footprints that we're finding everywhere, the people missing in the cave systems. And those are, you can't really turn your head around those, but the blur squatches and the fake Dogman videos, we're at a point now where unfortunately that's just going to keep on erupting everywhere.
Yeah, well, you know what? With the introduction of AI, the hoaxing is going to get so much better that you're not going to be able to tell the difference between real footage and AI footage. Maybe if you're a video analysis and you have all the tools at your disposal to break it down for, frame by frame or pixel by pixel, you may be able to figure it out. But yeah, I mean, the hoaxing is going to just go off the charts now with AI. And like you said, I think at this point in the game, video and photographs, unless you're getting a photograph on a 35 millimeter camera and
Yes.
the image is in the negative, or you're getting a photograph on a Polaroid camera where it's there when you rip the thing off of it. You know what I mean? Other than that, anything digital is going to just, as far as I'm concerned, are you just gonna? I'm just gonna have to throw out, because AI is gonna. I mean, it's bad enough hoaxing the years that we've known the hoaxes. Hoaxes, really good ones work really great with what do you call that? That other program that they have on computers for Photoshop. You know what I mean?
Adobe, yes, yep.
Yeah, and now with the AI, it's just going to be off the charts. Like you said, it's going to come down to stuff like hair and bone and casting of footprints and stuff like that.
Science,
Some
yes.
kind of physical evidence other than video and photographs, because you just can't trust it anymore. You just can't.
No, and again, very beautifully stated, which you would like to, and we'd all like to think that, hey, everyone's telling the truth, or just because it's from the brand new iPhone. But I'm going to give someone an example. There's apps that can do, don't get me wrong, they're in their beginning stages, so it still looks like cheese, but it's just to show you, yeah, the extent of where it's going to get. Like, you can make it look like you're literally walking outside in the desert, but it's not the desert where you are, but it could look like it. And then you can put a big T-Rex kind of coming out from the mountains on the side, okay? And as I stated, the T-Rex, like, it's cool, but it doesn't blend in very well with the environment yet. But more or less, it's the start of that. So pretty soon, as you stated, it's just going to get to the point where the iPhones, where it's not the iPhone's fault. I mean, technology's cool, but it's the hoaxers' capabilities of that. So no, super important. Well, you never really did give the audience a plug. So before we continue this conversation, I would like to have everyone really know what you do outside of the North American Dogman Project and also within it, because you do a ton of your own research too, man.
Yeah, I'm the director of the New York State UFO Project, the New York State Sasquatch Organization, the New York State Dogman Project, and the Bronxville Paranormal Society. Between those four different personal groups, we cover everything. Of course, I'm the Region 3 director from the NADP. Thank you, Jody and Shane and all those guys. But I like to stay busy. I'm boots on the ground. If someone asks me to do an interview on a podcast, more than happy to do it. I don't care if you have one listener or 100,000 listeners. If you ask me to do it, I can fit you in my schedule, I will do it, because I'm just grateful for people asking. I got a bunch of stuff planned this summer. We're talking about all kinds of things coming down the pipeline, and picked up some really high-end night vision binoculars that are just off the charts. And I'm looking forward to this summer.
That is awesome, epic stuff right there. So to the audience, there will be links up, and I do highly suggest keeping track of what Al's up to, even outside of the NADP too, because as just stated, he's got a ton of things going on. I would like to ask you, what do you feel about all these? Personally, I mean, I guess I will answer this question first. I feel
So you're going to
just
answer your own question, okay?
well, no, just to not put you so much, I guess, on the spot,
Nah,
because it
don't
won't.
worry. Don't
But
worry about it. Don't worry about it. You can ask
so
me anything,
all
man.
these in your face kind of Hollywood type encounters, right? I would love to, in theory, believe all these, and there's still a few that I've spoken to people and they seem like legit dudes or legit females, doesn't matter whoever you are. Your encounters, they seem legit, and there's no holes I personally or anyone else has been able to plug into it. But then there's some that I am like, okay, all this crazy stuff unfolded during this encounter. I just feel like I need some proof of this, okay? I would love to take people at their word value, okay? And whether you make a sandwich down the street or you're a mayor, a lawyer, it doesn't matter, because each side can be very truthful and each side can be untruthful. That's humanity. It doesn't matter whether you're a king or, as I said, a mechanic. It doesn't matter. People shouldn't get free passes. But the problem is, no one likes to take the tough questions and then show the evidence, okay? If you have this Hollywood encounter, you need to back that up for that to be meritable, in my point. And I feel like almost all these don't have that type of evidence. The people that seem to have the most credible encounters are the ones that are a little bit not Hollywoodish, okay? They might have seen it run across the field, or it was in their yard for a second, or standing on the side of the road, went across the road, okay? Not it ripped down your door, the guy's screaming for help. Like, all right, there's a case I heard about, for example, rest in peace to Brendan Sawin, but he was covering it, okay? And supposedly somebody he knew was friends with this individual that was an off kind of grid guy, Vietnam vet, and he had claimed he was sitting on his cabin one night. One of these creatures came out and he shot at it. Okay, went back in his house, felt like he had pissed it off, called this guy and his son, went over for a little bit, hung out with him. They were like, "You can stay here." He's like, "No, I need to go back to my house. I can't let anything run me off." Went back. Phone rang later in the night. I don't remember the exact time frame. I think it was around 2 or so in the morning. Picked it up. The guy's screaming. The SOB's back. Apparently, this guy and his kid could hear the thing breaking down the door, and it supposedly ripped the guy apart. And all that was ever found of him was some of his feet, and the house destroyed because this guy and his kid or nephew, I believe it was, went down the street because it was like 30, 20 minutes away. When they showed up, supposedly the local cop there, they were friends. This is what the guy told them. Okay, again, sounds great, man, but besides that right there, I have not been able to find anything to really justify any of that stuff. So how do you feel about all these legendary encounters?
Well, if a creature, I know which one you're talking about because I was good friends with Breton. I love Breton. Me and Breton, I did a lot of shows on Breton's network, and I loved him. He was a good friend of mine, and God rest Ray, rest in peace. But I know the one you're talking about, and a couple of red flags for me would be like, okay, how did the get there before the nephew or the son, because he called the son first, number
Okay, yep.
one. Number two, if the door was ripped off the hinges and there was and body parts all over the house and furniture was destroyed and walls were torn up and there was blood everywhere, how could you not have any evidence of that? Even if the drove you away and they cleaned the place up, you still own the property, right? It's you who's going to fix the walls and put the new door on and probably clean out all the destroyed furniture and everything like that. There's got to be evidence somewhere to validate the story. Okay. A lot of I know a lot of stories sound like over the top and people don't have any evidence to validate it. I don't necessarily throw those people under the bus because if you've ever experienced this stuff up close and personal, it happens when you least expect it. Even when you're out looking for it, it happens when you least expect it. And you don't always have equipment running or cameras at hand or audio at hand or stuff like that. But if you do have multiple witnesses who are with you that can validate your story, that to me goes a long way down the line as credibility, because now you're not just taking the story from one person, but there's 2 or 3 people and they're all willing to come on and they all tell the same story. You know what I mean? And then to me, it's probably really did happen, but not all of these crazy Hollywood events with no evidence are bullshit. Some of them do happen. You know what I mean? The majority of the stuff, the sightings that people see, like you said, one running across the road, maybe one eating road, middle of the road at 3 o'clock in the morning or something like that. Yeah, more or less, they're accidental encounters, but this stuff does happen. But when you hear something like that, you really got to dissect it. And don't get me wrong, I've had the pull me over and tell me to get out of their woods. Okay.
Dang.
And I'll tell you the story one time off air. Okay, I won't talk about it on air, but they will put the fear of God in you, and it's scary stuff when they show up and I've had one, they pulled me over in the middle of the parkway and they followed me for a week. I think they had my car bugged because every time I went past a certain point on the parkway, and I was commuting 60 miles each way every day, but every time I went past a certain point, they would fall out of the sky and be right behind me, following me. So it took me a long time to get back in the woods after that. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and everything you just said actually brings a little bit more terror to the aspect, because if some of the more terrifying ones do have some merit to the topic, that's definitely some straight up nightmare fuel in general. Because as I've said, I've never had any sort of paranormal type activity or such. I just try to, approach it with, as I said, a healthy skepticism and a journalist type aspect. And I just like to ask questions and learn about it. So it's, as you said, important to definitely dissect it. And at the same time, though, if you have multiple witnesses, that is excellent, because again, I feel like some of the cases you only have, as you said, a one-sided perspective. But like the Lake Texacoma, for example, in Texas with the Thibodeau brothers and their friend, that's three people. And
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So as you said, that brings a lot to it. And that's actually one of the cases I was referring to that I do believe that occurred, which is super crazy. And well, before we let you get back to all the busy stuff you're up to, I guess what would be the most legendary case that we were kind of talking about that you think has some sort of validation?
I think all the legendary cases that we discussed, that we have hit on tonight, all have their own validation. Every single one of them has something about it that validates it. And again, the skunk ape in the swamp. There's no way a regular person can walk through the swamp that way. I don't care what anybody says, especially in a monkey suit weighing you down. Absolutely not. The Freeman film, God bless the old man. He could barely walk. You know what I mean? And he got something really incredible before he passed away. And as far as the Patty video goes, I mean, listen, I was like, I don't know, 10 years old the first time I seen that video. And I remember sitting in the movie theaters with all of my cousins. There was about 10 of us. We were watching a James Bond movie or something. And when it was over, the Patty video came on. And I remember turning all my cousins and saying, that is real. And they all just, there was no love lost. It destroyed me, thinking I was an idiot. But I was like, that's real. I'm telling you, every fiber of my being is telling me that's real. And that's before Monster Quest really dissected that video and the muscle movement in the legs and the scar tissue and everything else. You know what I mean? That was just seeing that video first glance, my gut feeling. I don't claim to be psychic by any stretch of imagination, but I do get gut feelings. And when I see something like that, all three of those videos, my gut said these were real. Pay attention.
That was, again, beautifully stated. And funny story before we tie this up is when I was younger too, I remember, because my parents were kind of poor, but either way, they asked me what I wanted for my birthday. And there was a video, it was technologically groundbreaking at the time, where they were able to break down the Patty film and refurbish it. So it was absolutely beautiful. It's funny you said that, because the original one had me sold. But once I saved up my birthday money and got that DVD, that really had me absolutely sold, because they just broke it down into some great stuff. So no, I appreciate you stopping by tonight, man. And like I said, everything you do, and make sure you stay safe out there, and because you get out into the darkness and definitely right up in the the heat of the moment, man. So keep up the great stuff, and please do keep me posted. And I would like to collaborate with you again at some point when you get some more free time, my friend.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You know what? And I'll be brutally honest with you. I've seen a lot of crazy stuff in the woods, and it's terrifying. But nothing terrified me more than the it's pulling me over on the side of the parkway. That was really terrifying. But my last thing I want to say is, if you go in the woods, whether you're looking for Dogman or Bigfoot or whatever, protect yourself physically and protect yourself spiritually, because there's a lot of dark things in the woods just waiting for someone to come out there to attach itself to. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you for everyone who once again stopped by tonight for another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on Star Fox Radio. If you did enjoy this episode, please like, subscribe, and share it. Feed the algorithm. And until next time, I must rest.